Hi everyone, I'm Anuradha from the Raptivity team, and with me I have Janvi. We are here today to announce our next Raptivity Evolve interaction, the Rapid Check. As we all know, Raptivity has launched this new initiative called Raptivity Evolve, where we plan to release a new interaction every few weeks. And the best part is that all customers on active support plan can access it for free. So having said that, let us now turn our attention to Rapid Check. Janvi, can you share with us what this interaction is all about?
Definitely, Anuradha, I'd be happy to. The main purpose behind designing this rapid check interaction was to allow course developers to quickly check a learner's understanding of a particular concept or a subject using the idea of fun exercises. So in this case, a static question with a mix of correct as well as incorrect options moving in a quick succession on your screen that the learner has to then accurately identify is the basis, or that's the main idea behind this interaction, and hence it's called Rapid Check. And we'll highlight some of the interesting features that this interaction has as we see some examples ahead. So speaking of examples, why don't we take the first example? It's one of my favorites. It's a simple yet very effective math interaction that's perfectly suited for K through 12. So let me go ahead and show that on my screen. So hope you all can see my screen. So in this example, there is an introduction screen which provides instructions on how to go about using this interaction. If you want to present some media or ask a question that forms the basis of this interaction, you can also do that on this introduction screen. So instead of this static image that you're seeing on the right side, I could present a relevant diagram or even a video, as well as an audio narration, if you like, as an introductory part of this interaction. So let me go ahead and click the start button, and that will launch this interaction. And in this particular example, it's a time-bound exercise wherein within a certain amount of time, the user has to answer some questions that test the student's ability to quickly recall math facts. So let me go ahead and try and do this. As you can see, I'm running out of time. As I was speaking all that, the time was running away, so I couldn't attempt all the questions. But as you'll see here, I do immediately get a cumulative feedback based on the number of questions that I attempted, and of course all the correct answers to the questions that were in this interaction. So again, a great tool, and of course you must have seen the timer that was going on rapidly on the top right corner.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I'm pretty sure that this exercise can actually improve the learner's ability to do calculations mentally. And getting those right require focus and concentration, which I suppose could be an added benefit of using this interaction.
That's right, and as you can probably imagine, it can also be used to memorize and recall complex mathematics formulas, and which is why I personally like this interaction. So oftentimes students can get confused upon seeing very similar looking alternatives or confusing options when it comes to math. And this is one of those cases where even the slightest error or not paying attention can lead to an incorrect answer or result.
Okay, so Janvi, I'm just curious to know how complex can a rapid check exercise be? Like, is it only for K through 12 or even for higher education?
Well, you can make it make a fairly complex content example out of rapid check. Honestly, it really depends on what you need. So in the context of the education space, for instance, right from K through 12 to college, an interaction like rapid check can serve as a useful memory aid or a brain teaser. So whether I use it for such simple math equations or some complex organic chemistry formulas to show that, it really depends on you. It really depends on the need of the course that you're building, and then the instructional requirement. In fact, for that matter, I think in some cases, a case could be made that an interaction such as rapid check can be used to aid quick memory recall, such as here where you have to quickly recall math facts.
Now that's interesting, and I'm sure that it can reduce the boredom too that is associated with subjects like mathematics. At the same time, it can help improve the attention span and concentration of learners, especially the K through 12 children, thus making learning more compelling and fun. So, what is the next example that you have for us?
So the next example is another interesting example, and this time we'll be making use of images. So that's right, Raptivity Rapid Check gives us a choice or option to use both text as well as images in our options. And as we all know, when graphics or images are used for the right purpose, they can create a very interesting and fun-filled learning environment. So let's see this example and see how Rapid Check has been applied to a completely different context this time, which is manufacturing. So companies dealing with complex manufacturing products need to train their employees, for instance, on different parts of their machine and how those parts fit together. And oftentimes I've seen that this requires precision, because a lot of times safety could be at stake and where one cannot afford to basically go wrong. And in this example shows a quick way to review how well the learners recognize the different parts of this engine. So as you'll notice, as opposed to, in contrast to the earlier example, first of all, there is no timer here. And instead of just a simple introduction static screen, here there are actually directions on what you're supposed to do in this interaction. And there's a fairly complex diagram of the insides of a car engine, and you're supposed to kind of understand that diagram, pay attention, learn it, because the rest of the interaction is probably going to ask questions based on that. So let's go ahead and start. So as you can see, now the questions I'm getting are basically I'm supposed to identify, I'm supposed to determine whether the part has been identified or labeled correctly. So the learner, as you can imagine, has to pay very close attention to the images that appear on the screen to determine if it's accurately identified or not. And such an activity can help improve concentration and basically attention to detail, because clearly to be able to identify this, I would have had to understand the earlier image, pay close attention to the diagram that was presented earlier. And one of the challenges in online and mobile learning environments today that we all recognize is improving retention as well as increasing attention span of both our, the young learners as well as adult learners. So an exercise like this can certainly help us target these challenge areas and keep the learner engaged.
Okay, so this is an interesting one, and I like this because, in fact, when you were saying about engagement and reinforcing, I was just thinking about how it can be used to reinforce learning through repetition and or elimination, because it forces you to repeatedly review correct and incorrect options with immediate feedback, which helps you make sure that you know the right answer and remember it. I believe that rapid check interaction also gives you the option to choose whether you want to want an immediate feedback or a cumulative feedback upon completion. So is that right?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Anuradha. In fact, that is indeed a feature provided. Another feature I'd like to also point out at this time is that you can choose whether this exercise whether to make an exercise time bound or not. And as we have already pointed out, this particular interaction, in contrast to the earlier one, didn't have a timer. The earlier math example had a countdown timer. So in fact, if you decide to have a time-bound interaction, you have the option of selecting an upward or a downward counter as well. And if it is not a time-bound interaction, just basically you define how many questions or how many options it should show. You have the ability to also specify whether you want options to repeat. So as in this case, because through repetition, you're basically reinforcing the learning. So whether or not to repeat the options, that's also a feature. And thus, you can see with all these various options and features, the course developer has a lot of flexibility in terms of how to design the interaction based on his or her requirements and the requirements of the content.
Okay, so and to add to that, just like other Raptivity interactions, the look and feel of this interaction is also customizable, where as you mentioned, where the designer can change the background image, fonts, and color. You can also upload your own images and audio wherever required.
Yes, and honestly, I think this customizability is what makes it really powerful, and also not only that, also suitable for use across all the segments of learners. So not just K through 12, but also can be a great learning aid for our corporate training environments as well.
Great. So, Janvi, I know you have one more example of rapid check for us, and what is it?
Yes, and this one is another interesting example, this time from the food and beverage industry. And this particular example I like because it has this flavor, so it's the same interaction but has this flavor of a matching exercise. So the learner in this case is shown the various sub-brands of a parent company and is later expected to correctly identify a product of that company. So this can be used, as you can imagine, as a part of an onboarding program, for instance, where the purpose is to familiarize new employees with the various brands of the company. And here we're taking Conagra as an example, which is a large American food and beverage company. And as you'll see on the introduction screen, it shows me an image of all the different brands that Conagra owns or has, and right from Hunt's Ketchup to Kids Cuisine. So the learner has to pay close attention to all the brands and then match those up later. So let's go ahead and start it just like we did with the others. And now, surely, just like you would expect, it's asking me to match whether to determine whether the product that I'm seeing, whether the brand I'm seeing belongs to Conagra or not. So I know I saw Orville, so let's go ahead and mark correct, and this too. And as now you'll notice that there's also text options, so I can combine text as well as image options. So it doesn't have to be one or the other only. So maybe this was incorrect, I don't remember. So I can go on, and again it's a similar flavor. What you'll notice, like in the math game, where the moment I had a wrong answer, it would show me a wrong or give me immediate feedback. We have turned off that option in this case, so you have that ability also, like we talked about.
I'm really liking these interactions, and especially the way they are being used in different scenarios. And I would also like audience to know that these interactions can be used on your mobile phones like an iPad or an iPhone, because all these interactions have an HTML5 output, which is something great. So one last question, Janvi, and that is, do Raptivity interactions, are there any Raptivity interactions similar to new Rapid Check interaction?
Definitely, Anuradha. Raptivity, as many of you know, has a wide selection of memory aids and brain teasers that can be used to improve retention as well as memory recall, while at the same time engaging the learner. So just to name a few examples, some that come to my mind are say the true or false or match the pair, the word find the words, flashcards, maybe even the catch them fast, which is like a mini game. And of course there's many more if you go in and browse the Raptivity library.
Absolutely, because these are some great examples, and I would encourage all of you to try out these interactions too if you have them. And for all those looking out to get the new Rapid Check interaction that we've been talking about, I want to quickly remind you again that Rapid Check is a part of Raptivity Evolve, which is available as a free download on the Raptivity community. So just log into the Raptivity website and go to the link of community, and it will take you there. And yes, it's available for all customers and active support plan. So thanks, Janvi. I enjoyed our discussion today, and I hope the audience got a good idea of what the Rapid Check interaction is all about, and more importantly, how that interaction can be used in so many different creative ways. So we'll be back with more such webcasts as and when exciting new interactions get added to Raptivity Evolve collection. So till then, stay tuned, and thank you.
Thank you, Anuradha, and thank you, everyone.